Look closely at the continent of Antarctica. We're taught from a very young age that it's just a barren wasteland at the bottom of the world. A desolate, unforgiving expanse of ice and rock with absolutely no human history. But what if that frozen exterior is actually a vault? In this explainer, we're opening up the ultimate cold case file. We're looking at a region that frankly functions less like a continent and a lot more like a heavily guarded geopolitical enigma. A place where secrecy is strictly enforced and where true history might be buried beneath thousands of meters of ice.
And to really understand why it's so heavily guarded, we have to look at the cracks in the official narrative. In 1947, highly decorated polar explorer Admiral Richard E. Byrd delivered a deeply chilling warning to a Chilean newspaper. He stated, on the record, that in the event of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. You have to stop and ask yourself, what exactly did one of history's most pragmatic, experienced military men see in that ice to warrant such a severe public warning?
To uncover the truth, we need to strip away the snow and examine this mystery layer by layer. Layer 1, the edge of the world.
So we're told Antarctica's sheer isolation meant it wasn't even discovered until 1820, and back then it was reported as a completely frozen, uninhabitable wasteland. Yet we have the Piri Reis Map. This was created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral, and it depicts the Antarctic coastline with startling topographic accuracy. We're talking lush greenery and animal life. How does a map drawn 300 years before official discovery map its coastline so precisely and without the ice? Did pre-modern mapmakers possess knowledge we've somehow erased?
Now, mainstream science does attempt to explain some of the visual anomalies we see down there today. For instance, massive, 2-kilometer structures protruding from the ice are categorized as nunataks. They say these are just naturally occurring rocky peaks exposed above the snow, shaped over time by extreme weather erosion.
Right, a perfectly natural formation. Yet, when you actually observe the extreme, four-sided geometric perfection of these specific structures, they look undeniably like ancient pyramids. We have to maintain our skepticism here. Is this really just an incredibly rare geological coincidence, or are we looking at the remnants of something buried beneath the frost?
Which brings us to Layer 2, Operation Highjump's Hidden War.
In 1946, the U.S. Navy launched the Antarctic Developments Program. Publicly, this was framed as a peaceful mission, strictly for scientific discovery and cold weather training.
But let's look at the sheer scale of the deployment. 4,700 military personnel, 13 warships, an aircraft carrier, a submarine. The sheer absurdity of sending a heavily armed naval armada on a quote-unquote peaceful training mission immediately following the absolute devastation of World War II. I mean, who benefits from that level of force? It really forces us to ask what they were actually preparing to confront.
The timeline of the deployment is just as perplexing. The Armada arrived in late December of 1946, main operations commenced in January, and then by late February, literally just weeks into what was supposed to be a multi-month mission, they initiated a sudden, unexplained early retreat. And the official explanation for pulling out early? Bad weather. But does an elite, heavily funded military task force abandon a highly strategic global mission simply because an Antarctic summer turned foul? Or did they encounter something they simply weren't equipped to handle?
To understand what they might have been hunting, we have to look back to 1938. The Nazi regime actually sent an expedition to claim a region they called New Swabia in Antarctica. Later, during the Nuremberg trials, German Naval Admiral Karl Donitz made a highly cryptic claim. He bragged about an invulnerable fortress, a paradise-like oasis in the middle of eternal ice. This fuels a very dark, enduring implication that the U.S. Armada wasn't there for the weather, but to hunt down a hidden, technologically advanced stronghold known as Base 211.
Look, from a purely logistical standpoint, the Navy cited inexperienced pilots, limited navigation aids, and the highly lethal dangers of whiteout conditions. It makes total sense that they would withdraw to prevent casualties among standard steel-hulled ships. But that official story completely fails to account for persistent reports of the fleet encountering unknown resistance. It doesn't explain the immediate government suppression of Admiral Byrd's personal logs the moment he returned. When governments enforce total silence like that, they create the absolute perfect vacuum for enduring rumors. Specifically, unverified reports of advanced flying craft emerging directly from the water to engage the fleet.
Moving deeper, we reach Layer 3, Secrets of Lake Vostok. Stepping away from military incursions for a moment, let's plunge deep beneath the surface into modern science. Buried beneath thousands of meters of flowing glacier ice lies Lake Vostok. It's a massive subglacial lake completely isolated from the Earth's atmosphere for millions of years. It's essentially locked away in absolute darkness, like a prehistoric time capsule.
To access this hidden world, an international drilling team spent years boring relentlessly through the ice cap. They reached a staggering depth of 3,623 meters, and that was just to sample the ancient, refrozen accretion ice sitting directly above the liquid anomaly itself.
And what they found completely challenges our understanding of biology. We're talking about a 15,000 square kilometer subglacial lake, heated by deep geothermal faults. Within that pitch-black, highly pressurized environment, they discovered the DNA signatures of thermophilic or heat-loving bacteria. Think about the implications of that. If complex biological mechanisms can survive down there in deep faults, completely out of sight, it forces us to ask what else is thriving in the hidden warm cavities of this continent.
And that takes us down to the absolute bottom of the iceberg. Layer 4, the geopolitical lock.
Which brings us to the sudden, totally unprecedented global agreement that legally sealed off the continent. Consider the timing here. It's 1959. The global reality is the absolute peak of the Cold War. We have a terrifying nuclear arms race and violent proxy wars breaking out between the US and the USSR. Yet the reality in Antarctica? Total peaceful international cooperation. Absolute demilitarization. Why on earth did mortal enemies suddenly agree to lay down their weapons, share a continent larger than Europe and the US combined, and completely restrict public access?
Well, officially, the Antarctic Treaty system now involves 56 countries managing over 70 bases. It's strictly designed for environmental protection, ensuring this delicate ecosystem remains dedicated only to shared scientific research. But observe how it actually operates in practice. Strictly regulated access, classified information protocols, virtually zero civilian independence. You cannot simply travel there freely. Such a tight, heavily militarized ring of control is exactly what breeds suspicion. To the skeptical eye, this environmental protection acts as the absolute perfect geopolitical cover for black projects and undisclosed discoveries.
It leaves a lasting, unsettling psychological impact on the public. A commenter analyzing this treaty made a really poignant observation. They said, every single thing that the rich and powerful want to take, usually for profit or power, they take. They all leave Antarctica alone. It highlights a complete suspension of normal human greed. It's a global conspiracy of silence that directly contradicts human nature itself.
Which leaves us standing at the edge of the ice, staring at an impenetrable wall of secrecy. We've seen impossible ancient maps, aborted military armadas, hidden biological depths, and unbreakable geopolitical locks.
The evidence forces one final, deeply unsettling question. Is this global wall of secrecy truly meant to keep us out, or is it meant to keep something else in?